Hello. Yesterday at a class, somebody asked me about social anxiety. They wanted me to talk about that, so I thought I'd do a little video. So I'm going to start by just remembering what a few people have said to me about how they have started feeling being in lockdown. So, on the one hand, they're longing to get out and meet their friends, but on the other, something interesting is happening, which is it's harder to make that effort to contact other people. They're becoming a bit more reclusive. So, we get out of practice as well. But of course, social anxiety is a lot more than that. So, what drives our difficulty with being social, with being with other people? Well, essentially, I think it's a lot to do with wanting to be liked, wanting to be approved of, not wanting to be criticised, and being self-conscious. So I think our society doesn't help any of that, certainly with self-consciousness, because we're encouraged to look a certain way, to act a certain way. And, well, particularly how we look has become, very damaging, I think, particularly for young people who are growing up wanting to look a certain way and not accepting who they are. So that's one of the drawbacks, one of the biggest drawbacks, I think, to do with social media. The fear of getting it wrong, the fear of being criticised, the fear of not fitting in. So there's a lot of fear around because we don't necessarily fit a mould. So what does Buddhism say about all this? Well, one of the biggest things that Buddhism points to is the way that we hang on to our preferences. And I think the worldly winds, the teaching of the worldly winds explains that very well. We want to experience pleasure, not pain. We want to gain, not lose. We want to be famous rather than disappear into the background, you could say. So, all these things drive us. We want things in a certain way. And, well, often society leads us to believe that we can make life comfortable and to go in the directions that we want it to, but we can't. And our preferences, of course, cause us a lot of pain. And they do that because, we're always striving for something that we haven't got, or a way of being that we're not. And that means that we just don't accept ourselves. So, yes, I think social anxiety, a lot of that comes from not accepting ourselves, thinking we should be different, and the fear of being ridiculed or criticised for who or what we are. So it's a very painful position to be in. And, when we learn to meditate, particularly through doing the metta bhavana, we do start getting a more wholesome sense of ourselves, a richer sense of ourselves, a more accepting sense of ourselves. And if we've got that, then it means that we will have that view of other people as well. The more we love ourselves, the more we will love other people. So it's worth remembering that, when people criticise us, when we know that people don't like us, it's often because they're not liking themselves. That it's just a very critical way of being. And if they're criticising you, they're probably criticising themselves. Often it's driven by jealousy of other people and so on. So one of the main things we can do when we suffer from that kind of anxiety, social anxiety, is to notice what sort of thoughts are in our mind. What are we telling ourselves about ourselves? What are we telling ourselves about other people? So often we imagine and build up stories about what other people are thinking. They may not have any basis at all. We may have no evidence, but despite that, we tell ourselves stories. So notice the difference between what you know because somebody has told you and actually what you believe because you're imagining it through stories. So that's really important, you know, to notice how we build up often from nothing. We build up a view of how other people see us. And let's say, for example, that somebody really doesn't like you, or that they don't like the way you look, or whatever it is. You know that there is some truth because they've said horrible things to you. So why does that matter? Why does that matter so much? Well, it often matters so much because we haven't got a very good self-view. We haven't got a lot of confidence in ourselves. So being realistic, there is nobody in the world who is never blamed. So there's a verse in the Dhammapada that says, the silent man is blamed. He who talks much is blamed, and they blame him who says little. There is no one in the world who is never blamed. So that verse tells us something very important. It doesn't matter if we're the most attractive person in the world, if we're the most intelligent person in the world. No, there's nobody that will be exempt from criticism. So, if you think of it, what we're drawn to in terms of attractiveness is different for everybody. You might want to be really skinny, for example. Well, not everybody considers that to be how we should look. Some people like exuberant, loud, jolly people. Other people find that really off-putting. So, it's obvious, isn't it, that actually we can't please everybody. We can't possibly please everybody. As they say, one man's meat is another man's poison. Of course, in Buddhism, we don't tend to eat meat. But anyway, notice what your thoughts are doing. When you feel shy or reserved or like you want to run away from a situation. So notice what your thoughts are doing, but bring your attention into your body. Become centered in your body and start noticing your breaths. It's a bit like being in a social situation, but taking some time out for yourself. Come back, notice what's going on in yourself. Otherwise, those thoughts just run away. So we breathe, we come into our awareness within our body. Relax. Let things be at ease. Don't imagine what you don't know for sure. And that's very helpful. Those are the sort of things we need to do when we're feeling uncomfortable in social situations. It reminds me about how sometimes when people come to the Buddhist centre, one of the things they find difficult is that, a lot of Buddhists are quite comfortable with silence. We can sit there with other people, really enjoying being with them, feeling really good about ourselves and other people, and not having to fill every gap with words. But if you're new to that sort of environment, it can feel really difficult because we feel that we should fill it in. Oh gosh, if I've got to be here with my awareness, what does that mean? And what's the other person thinking if I'm not entertaining them, if I'm not being sociable, what we count as being sociable? But actually, it's really lovely to be with other people, not having to make that sort of effort, because sometimes it can feel very draining. So occasionally I do these silent morning meditation, on a Sunday morning. I usually do one about every other month, and I'm going to be doing one in April. I mean, it is for people that already know our two practices of mindfulness of breathing and the Metta Bhavana. But what people say they really like about those mornings are that they don't have to. There's no pull to be sociable. So they're silent from the time we arrive and the time we leave. So obviously I do some talking. Wouldn't be very interesting otherwise, probably. But, I usually have a theme. I do a short talk on the theme, and the rest of the time lead some meditations. So, yeah, people find it a relief on the whole. So anyway, that's a few words. So remember, coming into your body, taking some time out, even when you're right there with other people, remembering to breathe, and just noticing what's going on in the mind. So that's all for today. Bye-bye.